Let me start with something bold. Being nice is not the same as being kind, and too often in our desire to be liked, to avoid conflict, to make sure no one feels uncomfortable, we choose nice over real. We smile through disrespect, we say yes when everything in us is screaming no. We shrink to make others feel tall, and here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Being too nice is costing you your power. It's costing you influence. It's costing you leadership. It's costing you respect, not just from others, but from yourself. We've been conditioned to believe that being liked is the highest currency, but being liked doesn't build legacies. Being liked doesn't create movements. Being liked doesn't raise standards or drive innovation or speak truth in boardrooms. Being liked is easy, but being real, that takes courage. Let me ask you this. How many times have you agreed just to keep the peace and ended up at war with yourself? How often have you stayed silent when something needed to be said because you didn't want to seem difficult? How often have you overextended, overcommitted, overcompensated just to be seen as a team player? That's not leadership. That's self-abandonment, and it doesn't serve anyone, not your team, not your company, not your family, and certainly not you. We grow up hearing things like be nice. Don't rock the boat, just get along, and over time, those words shape how we show up in the world. We learn to hold back what we really think, to sugarcoat hard truths, to say yes when we want to say no, all in the name of being nice. And on the surface, that doesn't sound so bad. After all, who doesn't want to be liked, to be seen as agreeable, cooperative, and pleasant? But here's where the danger begins. When being nice becomes a survival tactic, a mask we wear to gain approval, it stops being genuine kindness and starts becoming self-erasure. Being kind and being nice are not the same thing. Kindness is rooted in strength. It's direct, honest, and rooted in care. Niceness, on the other hand, is often fear dressed up as friendliness. It's what we reach for when we want to avoid conflict, dodge discomfort, or delay decisions that might upset others. It's not about what's right. It's about what's easy asterisk. Niceness is passive. Kindness is active. Niceness avoids hard conversations. Kindness leans into them with clarity and compassion. Imagine someone on your team consistently underperforms, misses deadlines, or brings down the morale of the group. Being nice might mean saying nothing, tolerating the behavior, covering for them, and hoping it all just magically improves. Why? Because you don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to be the bad guy. But being kind, truly kind, means pulling that person aside, having a real, respectful, uncomfortable conversation, and giving them the opportunity to grow. That's leadership. That's integrity. That's what actually helps someone. Being too nice often stems from a deeper fear. The fear of being disliked, of being judged, of being seen as too much or too direct. So we mute ourselves. We dilute our ideas. We become overly accommodating, overly agreeable, and eventually people don't see the real us. They see a curated, filtered version designed to keep the peace. And here's the problem. When people don't see the real you, they can't respect the real you. They can't follow a version of you that's built around pleasing everyone else. Nice often compromises what matters for the sake of avoiding discomfort. Kindness is about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Nice is reactive. Kind is proactive. Nice keeps things smooth on the surface while the cracks underneath get deeper. Kindness confronts the cracks, even if it means breaking the surface. Nice plays it safe. Kindness takes risks for the sake of truth, growth, and connection. If you find yourself constantly giving in, staying quiet, or making yourself smaller so others stay comfortable, what you're doing isn't kindness, it's self-betrayal. And the longer you do it, the harder it becomes to find your voice again. Because the more you practice silence, the more you convince yourself that silence is safety. But silence doesn't build trust. Authenticity does, kindness does, clarity does, and those don't always look nice. Pleasing often wears a mask of politeness, humility, or teamwork, but at its core, it's a quiet form of self-betrayal. It's the internal agreement you make to put your own needs, opinions, and values on hold so that others can stay comfortable. It's saying yes when every fiber of your being is saying no. But you go along with it anyway because you've been taught that keeping the peace is more important than keeping your self-respect intact. It's subtle, often praised, and deeply damaging. The thing about people pleasing is that it doesn't start from a place of weakness. It often starts from a place of good intention. You want to help, you want to be liked, you want to be seen as reliable and supportive. But over time, those good intentions morph into a pattern of self-neglect. You start compromising on what matters to you. You delay your own goals to accommodate others. You keep your opinions to yourself so you won't rock the boat. And little by little, your sense of self starts to erode. You begin to question your own needs. You feel guilty for having boundaries. You feel selfish for wanting space. You feel like you always have to earn your place in every room you're in. When you constantly prioritize the comfort of others at the expense of your own truth, what you're really doing is abandoning yourself. You're teaching yourself that your value comes from what you can offer, not from who you are. You're sending the message, often unconsciously, that your worth is conditional, that you're only enough when you're making someone else's life easier, smoother, or happier. This cycle is exhausting, and yet it's familiar. Because for many people, especially those who were rewarded for being the good one, the easy one, or the dependable one, people-pleasing became a strategy for acceptance early on. But what kept you safe then is keeping you small now. People-pleasing drains your energy and distorts your identity. It makes you hyper, aware of what everyone else needs while becoming tone-deaf to your own desires. You find yourself playing different roles in different rooms, not because you're being fake, but because you've lost touch with what it feels like to be consistent, what it feels like to be whole. You say yes, and immediately regret it. You overcommit and secretly resent it. You give advice, time, attention, even when your tank is empty, and instead of being thanked, you're often taken for granted, not because people are cruel, but because you've taught them that your needs can wait. This behavior isn't noble, it's not heroic, it's not mature, it's simply fear disguised as helpfulness. It's the fear of rejection, the fear of confrontation, the fear of being misunderstood or judged. And so you trade in your truth for temporary comfort, hoping it will earn you peace, when in reality it only buys silence. People-pleasing creates a life of quiet frustration, where your real thoughts, dreams, and boundaries stay buried under the pressure to keep everyone else happy. There is a cost to silence that no one talks about. The moments you hold your tongue when something needs to be said, the times you pretend you're okay when you're not, the conversations you avoid to keep the peace, all of it adds up. On the outside, you may seem calm, agreeable, even easygoing, but on the inside, that silence becomes a pressure chamber, filled with unspoken thoughts, unmet needs, and unrealized boundaries. And over time, it doesn't just affect how others treat you, it shapes how you see yourself. You begin to internalize the idea that your voice doesn't matter, that your perspective isn't valuable, or that speaking up will only lead to conflict, discomfort, or rejection. We often stay quiet because we fear the consequences of being honest. Maybe we don't want to upset someone we care about. Maybe we're afraid of being labeled difficult, demanding, emotional, or confrontational. Maybe we think we'll be seen as less cooperative, less of a team player. So we bite our tongue in meetings, we nod along in conversations. We say, "It's fine," when it's anything but fine. And every time we do that, we reinforce the belief that it's safer to be invisible than it is to be seen in our truth. But here's the paradox. We stay silent to protect relationships, but that silence creates distance. We think we're avoiding discomfort, but what we're really avoiding is connection, the real, raw, honest kind. Because real connection requires truth. It requires presence. It requires us to bring our full selves to the table, not just the polished, agreeable version we think others want to see. And yet, many of us choose silence because we've been conditioned to believe that keeping things smooth on the surface is more important than being real beneath it. The problem is, Silence doesn't eliminate tension. It just buries it, and eventually it resurfaces in passive-aggressive comments, in resentment, in burnout, in broken trust. When you stay silent, you rob others of the opportunity to know where you stand. You rob them of the chance to grow, to be challenged, to see something they may be missing. You rob yourself of the opportunity to lead, to influence, to change the direction of a conversation or a decision. And you rob the world of your unique insight, your clarity, your courage. Speaking up doesn't always mean confronting someone or creating conflict. Sometimes it simply means expressing a need, voicing a concern, offering an idea, or drawing a boundary. It means refusing to play small just to make others feel more comfortable. It means recognizing that discomfort is not the enemy, disconnection is. And if the price of being accepted is your silence, then that's not acceptance, that's performance. Many people believe that staying silent keeps them safe. But safe from what? Safe from growth, safe from being misunderstood, safe from difficult conversations that might actually create more understanding and trust. What feels safe in the moment often becomes a prison in the long run. The truth is, your voice is your power, and every time you silence it to protect someone else's comfort, you hand a piece of that power away. Approval is seductive. It gives us a rush, a sense of being seen, validated, accepted. From childhood, we're taught to chase it. Gold stars for good behavior, praise for staying in line, applause for performing well. And so we begin to associate approval with worth. If someone likes me, I must be doing something right. If I make people happy, I must be enough. That's how the conditioning starts, and then it gets louder. In school, at work, on social media, even in relationships, we start to measure our value by how others respond to us. We begin to craft ourselves not from the inside out, but from the outside in. We say what people want to hear. We do what we think will earn us praise. We make choices not based on our values, but on how they'll be perceived. And slowly, quietly, we start living someone else's version of our life. Approval becomes a kind of addiction. It gives us a high, but it's short-lived, because the moment the applause stops, the moment the likes fade, the moment someone disapproves, we're right back to questioning ourselves. Was I wrong? Was I too much? Did I say something I shouldn't have? And in that moment, our sense of self crumbles. Not because we were wrong, but because we've tethered our identity to someone else's reaction. That is the danger of approval seeking. It's unstable, it shifts constantly, and it keeps you in a cycle of performance, always adjusting, always editing, always shrinking or stretching just to fit the mold someone else created. The need for approval often masks a deeper fear, the fear of rejection. We're afraid of not being accepted, of being misunderstood, of being alone. So we play small, we stay quiet, we soften our edges, we try to be everything to everyone, and in doing so, we become nothing to ourselves. Because every time you make a decision solely to be liked, you lose a piece of your authenticity. You start living from a place of fear instead of purpose. You start choosing popularity over integrity. You start filtering your truth, your ideas, your creativity, because you're so afraid of getting it wrong. But real leadership doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being clear from being consistent from being true. People don't follow someone because they agree with them 100% of the time. They follow someone because that person has a voice, a vision, a backbone. Approval might open doors temporarily, but authenticity builds trust that lasts. When you operate from a place of authenticity, some people won't like it. Some people will challenge it. But those aren't the people you're meant to shape your life around. The right people, the ones who value truth, who respect growth, who crave something real, will find you. But they can only find you if you stop hiding behind who you think you're supposed to be and start showing up as who you truly are. Approval is easy to chase and impossible to catch. What's rare and far more powerful is to be grounded in your truth, even when it's not met with applause.